Don't assault me! Don't assault me!
Walk back!
Don't assault me!
Walk back!
Am I free to go? Listen, mate, I'm asking the questions. You're the public servant. Will you take your hand off my car, please? Thank you.
I do not consent, officer. I don't consent to a mental
Breaching the peace.
But I am sovereign over my human body, and I do not consent to any search. I do not consent to any authority you feel you have over me. I am a sovereign British citizen, and I do not wish to be searched.
I am the county court bailiff. No authority.
Excuse me, it's our right to film you. It's our right to film you. Yes, it is. Under what law are we not allowed to film you?
Because I'm telling you not to film.
Yeah, but you have no authority to tell me not to film.
Because we're in a public area.
James Parisi with the Quincy Police Department. What is your name, sir?
That's good to know, sir.
Yeah, what is your name?
Well, I don't think that by law I have to identify myself if I'm on the sidewalk minding my own business and there's no laws being broken.
You said, look, mate, I can't give you the full section. Can't give you the full section because you can't expect me to know it. Is your words, yeah? And I'm saying, well, if I can't expect you to know it, you can't expect me to know it.
Over your details.
Can you show us a warrant, please?
I think we've got a warrant for arrest.
Can you show us a warrant, please?
Show us your documentation.
Show us a warrant, please, with a wet signature.
I'm not happy with this, mate, honestly. Okay, alright, well, am I being detained right now?
No, you're not being detained right now.
Am I free to go?
Sorry?
Am I free to go?
Not at the moment, no, because I need to...
Well, am I being detained or arrested right now?
The difference between lawful and legal, as I see, is lawful relates to common law, the law of the land, the law which governs all people, the original law, which is quite straightforward. To me, it's a case of don't cause any harm or loss or damage to any person, and don't cause that to happen to anybody, and everything's good. And you know, that's pretty straightforward and simple. Everyone can understand what that means. Legal pertains to our legal system and where statutes and acts come from, and it's a system that doesn't actually relate to common law. So we've got these two systems running side by side. We've been fooled into believing that they are one in the same, and so when police are policing the streets, we're enforcing policies, acts and statutes which, when looked into, are not actually necessarily lawful.
Common law is the law of the land, and laid down over centuries of court cases in front of juries, humans making law for humans.
For the severest measure of punishment.
Common law pertains to lawful, and anything outside of lawful falls under the legal or no system at all. The legal system covers all statutes and acts and civil matters. Things like owing money to banks, not paying fines or tax. Basically, anything that isn't criminal. For there to be a crime, there has to be an injured party. In this case, a human. And there are three basic principles that all law needs to apply to. They are as follows. Do not breach the peace. Cause no one else any harm. Cause no one else any loss. Do not use mischief in your promises and agreements. Apart from that, everything else is free rein.
Lawful refers to the natural law, the law of the land, okay? And that's not causing any harm to anyone, obviously not stealing from anyone, and not using fraud in your contracts. So basically, you're not doing any harm or trying to get one over on anyone else. Legal refers to the statutes, which I mentioned earlier. And the statutes are basically all the rules of society, and not just, we haven't just got the UK statutes, but we've got all the European statutes. So you've literally got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of laws, which every day, we could be breaking without knowing.
We all know that you can't go around raping and killing and murdering and invading. We don't need fucking laws for that. Like, we'll deal with that as it comes. But anything other than that, what you want to smoke, where you want to live, where you want to take a shit, who you want to insult, not a fucking other adult on this planet. Like, what are you, my dad? Are you my fucking dad telling me what to do? Like, that's how I feel now when police or control freaks try and give it to me.
Legal is essentially
according to contract. You have to, the rules that are sort of handed down to us, but you have to contract with them before they become law. And that law is contract law. You know, you enter into contract, you're bound by it. So yeah, it's two different things. One's overlaid on top of the other.
Parliament has no say in common law and is bound by it. So they create Acts of Parliament, and in the US, Acts of Congress. Because government is a creation of man, and a creation of man can never be above man, they need your consent before they have the force of law.
The principle of by consent, if people don't realise, is that we obviously have police because we want them, and that we only have to do what they say if it's reasonable, if we consent to what they're asking to. That is the principle of it for me. Obviously, the larger issue is the assumption that everybody who's walking on this land has given consent to be policed by these people. And that's an assumption that most police officers in this country live by without realising that it's not true. You know, and this is where diplomatic immunity is a good example of where, well, actually the consent isn't given and the police don't have the power to act. Another good example that shows it's all about jurisdiction is that our police have no power at all at the American embassy. But that's on our land, isn't it? And that's another example. Embassies are a good example that shows that jurisdiction is portable. It's not tied to land, it's tied to the party. So I can carry my jurisdiction with me, which is the whole principle of sovereignty in general.
My understanding of policing by consent is that, as I said earlier, when a law is passed, for it to be lawful, it has to have the consent of the people. People have to consent to that law and consent to abide by it. But unfortunately, I think we're in a system now where that obviously doesn't happen, but people don't realise that by verbally agreeing with, let's say, a police officer in relating to a parking ticket, that you're entering into a verbal contract, and by agreeing with what the officer is saying, you're consenting to being bound by the law, or whatever the law is. And people, when we say words like, do you understand, when a police officer says to you, reads the caution and says, do you understand, what they're actually saying is, do you stand under our authority? Now again, you know, I didn't know this as a police officer, and even the words that are spoken as a police officer, police don't even necessarily understand themselves. So I believe that people have to consent to a law for it to apply to them in the legal sense, because it's not common law.
So when you interact with the police or the court system, they will ask you for your name, address, and date of birth. This is done to create joinder between you and your legal fiction, and to trick you into representing it. Once you agree to represent your legal fiction, now they can deal with you.
They can only apply their legal mechanisms if they have the name of the slave they're dealing with. If you state, well, I don't want to give my name, then they can't apply the mechanisms to you because they have no name for their paperwork. And remember, all their systems work via paperwork. It's all paperwork.
I think you might be wanted.
Well, if I'm wanted, what's the problem?
You'll be arrested.
Well, then arrest me then, innit?
Well, I need to establish who you are.
No, you don't. If you think I'm the person that's wanted, arrest me, innit?
Where do you live? Tell me your date of birth.
What? What's that?
What do you want? I want your details now.
Lock me up for what?
Give me your details.
Lock me up for what?
Give me your details.
Lock me up for what?
Lock me up for what? Give me your details.
Well, get my details. And I tell you this as well. Yeah, I tell you this as well. I'm not a criminal. I'm a peaceful man sitting out there. I just burn down the system of corruption and pollution that we now represent.
But in the meantime, I'll leave you to it, but obviously if there are any problems, then I might have to come back and obtain your details and speak to you further.
Look, you have no right to just leave me to it. You have no right to say you're going to come back and ask for my details. I'm me, he's him, yeah. You're you. That's our details.
Oh yeah. Am I obliged to give you my details?
We've spoken to you.
Yes.
Okay, we've asked you to leave the store.
Yes. Wait a second.
Your details. And you have my details.
Am I obliged to give you my details?
You're not obliged to give me your details.
Oh, great, okay.
Why?
How are you define yourself under the sex crime definition?
Am I obliged to answer that, sir?
It's entirely up to you.
I do not wish to answer any questions, sir.
You don't have to, I'm just asking you.
Am I obliged?
You're not
no,
obliged.
I'm not obliged. No comment.
Okay, that's fine.
What are you doing?
Am I obliged to answer that, sir?
No?
No comment.
Okay. Are you going to answer any of my questions?
If I'm obliged, I will, but if I'm not obliged, then I won't be answering any questions.
Oh, that's fine.
Are you going to tell us your name or not?
Am I obliged?
And then you're getting out your van and coming over and trying to intimidate me. Go back in your van and go away, there'll be no complaints. Stay here, I'll be speaking to your sergeant about all of you.
Right, so you're demanding now, are you? Or are you requesting that I give you my details? Right, well, I would politely decline your request.
Why is that? What's your reason for declining?
Privacy.
You got an ID or driver's license on yourself?
Yeah.
Nope.
Not gonna do it. What's your name and badge number?
Officer Carlson, ID 7345.
Okay. Am I being detained or am I free to go?
Free to go whenever you want to.
Thank you, sir.
I'm asking you again, am I obliged to give you my details?
I'd like to, because I'm going to do a name check.
I got it.
I'd like to see if,
I got it.
if you're banned from this area or
Okay.
whatever.
Well, I'm asking you again, I know you'd like to, but the reason, just to explain to you, the reason I don't like to give my details is because I don't trust where those details go. Do you understand?
You well know as well as I know, sir, that in order for you to ask me my name, you have to suspect me of committing a crime. You know and I know that you don't suspect me of committing a crime. You're just poking around where you don't belong.
Okay, is there a problem, officer? Constable.
Basically, under section 163 of the Road Traffic Act, I'm allowed to check your documents.
Of course you are. And I know I'm not obliged to give any details whatsoever. However, I'd like to know, is there a problem?
I don't even have to speak to you unless you're going to arrest me, mate.
You got some mental health problems?
No, mate. No, I just know my right to remain silent.
Yes, you did, mate. Well, the camera was not on. That's what you said.
Have you got
Okay?
a contact phone number?
Right. No, I haven't got a contact phone number. I'm not obliged to give any contact phone number. All I would like now is my card back. I'm not accepting any paperwork from you guys, and I want to go on my way. I'm gonna be detained right now.
Legally, yeah? Legally, you're meant to confirm your name and address to me.
Lawfully? Hold on. Lawfully? Lawfully?
Yeah, lawfully.
You're supposed to answer me. You're a public servant.
But yet what? No, you can't see my ID. Can I see your ID? I'm glad you brought that up. Can I see your ID? I see your badge.
At the end of the vehicle, you're going to have to give me some details, okay? I don't have to give you any details. You're going to have to. Call the sergeant, mate. I don't have to give you any details.
No, ma'am, you may not.
I'm talking to you, investigating something now. I can't.
You're investigating me for what crime?
I didn't say it was a crime.
Okay, then there's no probable cause or reasonable suspicion for me to provide it.
Because.
And then what would you do if I was to say that I don't have a name? Like, how would you look me up or anything like that?
Well, we wouldn't. Because if I stop you like this to have a chat, and I ask for your name, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad you know that, because a lot of police officers where I'm from don't actually know that.
You don't have to give me a name. The only time you have to give me a name...
You've caught me breaking the law.
Or, well no, even then you don't, because you can be booked in as unknown.
I suppose, I could replace.
The only time you're legally obliged to give your name, address and date of birth is when you drive in a car.
If you haven't broken any laws, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to interact with the police if you don't want to. If they come up and try and engage you in conversation, and you haven't done anything, then you don't have to engage in conversation with them. You can you're free to walk away. If they want to detain you, they need reasonable grounds to do that. And if they don't have reasonable grounds to do that, then they're actually in breach of their oath, and they're liable.
With statutes and acts, the consent of the people, those are the people that's there to govern, has not been obtained. And so, it's frowned upon. It's very much a grey area, and police are being used to enforce statutes and acts of the legal system, and not really understanding what that means and what it means as a police officer to police.
I believe that Black's Law Dictionary states that a statute is a legislative rule of a society given the force of law by those who consent. So a statute it doesn't actually say a statute is a law, it says it's a legislative rule of a society given the force of law, but only by those who consent to being in that society or consent to the fact that consent to the law. So if you say to a policeman when they stop you, I'm sorry, I do not consent I do not understand, that is, I do not stand under you, then you can step away from that. But it's important that you uphold the actual natural law. And of course the policemen and magistrates and also the Queen, they all state oaths to the law of the land. So you can ask an officer if he's actually, are you on your oath? So it's important that we can actually get them on their oath, because they don't swear an oath to uphold the law of the sea or statutes. They swear an oath to uphold the law of the land.
If you're pulled up by the police and the police say to you, can I have your name? And you say no, which officially you don't have to give your name. It's actually on the Metropolitan Police site itself. It actually says you don't have to answer their questions. But if you don't answer their questions, they're going to do one of two things. If you get a good copper, they're going to go, okay, not a problem, you haven't really done anything wrong, we'll leave you alone. You get a bad copper, then you're going to get dragged to the floor, roughed about, cuffs on, you'll be dragged down a station where you will be bullied and coerced into giving your name in the end. And if you don't, they will just keep you as long as they possibly can. To lock any human being in a room that they can't leave, and especially in a room that has the very, very bare essentials, is torture.
So remember, if you haven't broken any laws, no one has the right to tell you what to do. We are all equal in the eyes of the law, from the Queen to the police and to you or I, and we are all innocent until proven guilty. So if a policeman stops you in the street and you haven't broken any laws, do not comply. Always ask, am I detained? Or, am I free to go? Do not give your details and ask if you're obliged to. If they do try to search you or arrest you without your consent, tell them you are doing this under duress. If you have not broken the law, do not comply. Only interact with the police if you wish to. If you do not wish to, do not consent. The more of us that do not comply, the less likely this country will become like Nazi Germany or Communist China. The police swear an oath to the Queen, so ask them if they are under their oath. If they reply yes, they are bound by said oath and can only uphold common law.
This is certainly the most updated. When I joined, it was slightly differently worded to this, but this is probably the most updated, and it starts with I, you state your name, of, you state whichever police force you are serving, do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the Queen in the office of Constable, with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved and prevent all offences against people and property, and that while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law. That is the oath and attestation of a police constable.
If you ask a policeman to say, are you on your oath, very often they change their, they actually realise what you're talking about and they change their behaviour, because their oath was to uphold the common law of the land and not the statutes, not the law of the sea, which is the law of commerce. Because we realise that everything now is to do with commerce. When the policemen stop us, you're not wearing a seatbelt. Well, who am I causing harm to? Where's the loss or damage? It's crazy. And so they say, oh no, you're breaking the law. Well, I'm just breaking a rule, but why? What authority do they have over us? I haven't given them my authority.
The oath that every police officer is to preserve the property, life and subjects of the Queen. Now that to me is people, property, disturbances, breach of the peace. That's how I understand the office of constable to be now. It's basically an oath is a promise. I promise to enforce the law. I promise to serve Her Majesty's subjects. I promise to prevent them as much as I can, prevent them from being harmed, to prevent their property from being destroyed. That to me is the oath of a constable.
Police take an oath when they join the service, Again, they don't really understand what that means. It's not explained in any details. It's kind of a grey area. You just take it to mean whatever you want it to mean. But it's all been set up to allow the system that currently enslaves people to carry on enslaving and to further that enslavement into every aspect of our lives.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Parliament Square for the Occupy London protest. I've just come over to a group of police officers who are protecting and serving the people today. I've just approached this guy here who obviously has his back to me now. What's your name, please, sir? Obviously you're obliged to tell me. It's your job as a public servant to identify yourself. So could I have your name, please? Okay, we have here Constable Bird. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I have here about 200 copies of the UK police officer's oath of office. I've just asked them if they know their oath. They've gone very quiet on me. This isn't an attack on you guys, just so you know. Like, I'm not trying to cause trouble with you or anything. I'm just trying to make sure you do your job properly, obviously. I mean, some emergencies just come up, so I'm going to follow them just to see why they're avoiding my questions. I think we all know it's because they don't know their oath. But I'd like to offer them a copy just to see if they will remember why they became police officers, which was obviously to protect and serve the people of this country. But if during their programming and their training and stuff have forgotten who they actually went into the job for, I'd like to remind them. So I still have the oath in my hand. Look, you can see all the copies. They're walking away from me. They don't want to hear it. My aim at this protest is obviously to help the police remember their oath, to remember what it is that gives them this authority in the first place, and hopefully they will honour humanity and uphold. Let me just read their oath to you guys. Look, they're really walking away from the square and everything. They don't want to hear this at all. I, so-and-so of wherever, do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the Queen in the office of Constable with fairness, integrity and diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people. And that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved and prevent all offences against people and property. Sorry, where was I? Prevent all offences against people and property, and that while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law. So could you now recite that back to me? This is going on the internet, by the way. Not even an acknowledgement from them, guys. This is what we're dealing with. They've just completely ignored all attempts and walked off to their van and gone away. What are we supposed to do? I'm not giving up. I've got about 200 copies of their oath of office that I'm going to give out to them, and I'm going to ask them to uphold it and say, will you honour this oath and remember why you started this job? And hopefully, fingers crossed, some of them remember that it's the people that they work for. So wish us luck, guys, because we're on a mission to convert these guys to truth and love. Wish us luck. Namaste.
How are you insured?
Excuse me, take your hands out of my camera.
Today?
So I've seen many sorts of videos on YouTube and the like recently where people have been filming encounters with police officers, and they're basically been told that they can't film. But if you look at the Metropolitan Police's official website, it actually states that you can film police officers. If it's in a public domain, if it's in a private domain, then obviously that may well be different, because there's certain laws of corporations and whatever that may prevent that. But certainly if you take a camera or a phone and you record the encounter, there's nothing illegal about that at all. It may be help as a witness as an accurate account of what's being said, so there's sort of no ambiguity at a later stage, but certainly not illegal to film anyone in a public domain.
There are simply no laws preventing you from filming in public. This also includes the filming of the police performing their duties. Here is a letter that was sent in 2010 to all police stations regarding filming in public.
Dear colleagues, guidance for photographers. I am writing to you in my capacity as chair of the ACPO, Communications Advisory Group, which sits in the presidential business area. There have been a number of instances highlighted in the press where officers have detained and deleted images from their cameras. I seek your support in reminding your officers and staff that they should not prevent anyone from taking photographs in public. This applies equally to members of the media and public seeking to record images who do not need a permit to photograph or film in public places. ACPO guidance is as follows. There are no powers prohibiting the taking of photographs, film, or digital images in public places. Therefore, members of the public and press should not be prevented from doing so. We need the cooperation with the media and amateur photographers. They play a vital role as their images help us identify crime. We must acknowledge that citizen journalism is a feature of modern life, and police officers are now photographed and filmed more than ever. Unnecessarily restricting photography, whether for the casual tourist or professional, is unacceptable, and it undermines public confidence in the police service. Once an image has been recorded, the police have no power to delete or confiscate it without a court order. Yours sincerely, Andrew Trotter, Chief Constable, Chair of ACPO Communications Advisory Group.
As a professional television cameraman or a member of the public, I am allowed to stand in the street and shoot. I don't need 4 police officers or wardens or whatever you are when I stop to do this. This is absolutely bloody ridiculous. And I'm fed up with every single time that I do this of being stopped and being questioned and being treated like some kind of criminal. Oh, for God's sake, this is Windsor Castle. There are a million people around here with cameras. Do you think a terrorist would stand here with a tripod and make it bloody obvious? Or do you think a tripod would just get a terrorist would get a home video camera out and shoot?
It's obviously I'm wasting my time talking to you. So.
You clearly are. Thank you very much. Let me get on with my day.
I'm not arguing, I'm asking you a question. Can I film anything in public, in the public? If it's against the law to film in public, then everybody with a camera would be breaking the law, wouldn't they?
What is the actual law saying I'm not allowed to film you?
Nothing. There is no law to say you can't.
Okay.
There is only one act that gives police blanket powers to search the public, and this is Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994. But this needs to be authorized by an inspector or above, and only if he or she suspects that instances involving serious violence may take place and that persons are carrying dangerous instruments or offensive weapons. The order will cover a specific area, normally a town or suburb, for a period of no longer than 24 hours. In a nutshell, if there has been a riot or a gang fight or something of that nature, a Section 60 may be brought into force, and anyone in that area can be searched without reasonable grounds for suspicion. All other bases for searches need reasonable grounds for suspicion, and they must follow Go wisely. Officers conducting a stop and search will work through a process called Go wisely. If officers do not follow Go wisely, they leave themselves open to an assault allegation and the search itself being unlawful. The police currently have over 20 stop and search powers. They are mainly for weapons, drugs, stolen property, or articles intended to damage property. Those made using powers from Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, commonly referred to as PACE searches, are the most common. Go wisely is a mnemonic that was created so the police could easily remember the terms laid down in Section 1 of PACE. Section 1 of PACE is the foundation document for all searches that require reasonable grounds for suspicion. In this modern age, it is very easy to download the documents from the website supplied, such as Section 1 of PACE, a breakdown of Go Wisely, etc., and keep them on your mobile phone, so if you do ever have an encounter with the police, you have evidence straight away to show them that you know what they require to make the encounter legal. If a police officer insists on searching you, do not resist. It will only end one way. Tell the officer that you are alarmed and distressed and you are being searched under duress, and make it very clear that you do not agree with the search and only sign the paperwork if you want to. Signing the paperwork means you agree to being searched. Take a lesson from the previous section and always film your encounters with the police. This tactic works twofold. Normally, when you pull a camera out, the police completely change their attitude and work to a more professional standard. Secondly, you have evidence of the entire encounter in case the police officer tries to make any false allegations against you. If you are being searched under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, the police officer must comply to Go Wisely as laid out in PACE Section 1. The root power for the search comes from PACE Section 1, and they must adhere to it. If the police do not follow PACE Section 1, then the search can be considered unlawful and an assault charge can be filed against the officer or officers, as with R v Bristol 2007, where the police refused to give their name and the station they were dispatched from. From the mnemonic Go Wisely, the most important aspects for you to question are grounds, object, and lawful reason. Ask the officer what are the grounds for the search and the object of the search, what he thinks he will find, and what laws allow him to do this. This is important because the police have to justify why they have stopped you and record this, and asking the questions makes it harder for them to stop you without reason. The point to all this information is, the police cannot search you unless a Section 60 is in place, without reasonable suspicion. You can, in such cases as a drug search, refuse by not giving consent, as laid out in the Drugs Act 2005. Here is an example of how this information can help you and possibly make the police treat you with a little more due diligence.
No, you can be searched under Section 23, misuse of drugs.
I do not consent to the search.
You don't get a choice, my friend.
What do you mean I don't get? Wait, hold on. I don't consent to the search, and you just told me I don't get a choice, yeah? Wait, you're telling me I don't get a choice, yeah? Wait. Because you're a public servant. I'm going to let you search me after you answer my questions. You're telling me I don't have a choice, yeah? That's what you're saying. I don't have a choice, yeah?
What I'm saying to you
is I don't have a choice. No. You're a public servant. I'm allowed to record you. And plus, do you know what? You can take my phone and smash it. This is live streaming. You can take the phone. It's live streaming. It goes saved straight into my laptop. So you can try to confiscate it all you like. I've got you on camera. You just said I don't have a choice. Don't touch my phone. That's assault. You just touched my hand. That's if I did that to you, I'll get nicked for assault. Don't do it to me.
Well, I'm not here for nicking people for assault.
Yeah, well, don't do it to me.
Okay. What I can technically do is see that as everything.
You can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Would you like me
It
to
doesn't
do that?
matter because I still got it on my laptop.
That's fine.
It's
Would
a
you
live
like me to
stream.
do that?
Go on. What you searching me for?
Right, listen.
What
I'm
you
saying
searching me
is,
for?
come out that bin. Yeah, his hand's gone
He's
down.
come
He's
out
dropped
the bin.
something behind the bin by the
All
looks
right,
of it.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, you.
All
Okay,
right.
which gives me the reason to believe the fact you're down an alleyway for no real reason. With the shops
I just
around
told
the front.
you, yeah?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to walk up to that bin.
Yeah.
And if I see anything down there,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to turn a pair of you over. If
All
I
right,
don't,
cool.
then we're good, yeah? Walk up then.
You walk up.
I'm going to walk after you, my friend.
You're a public servant and you're not following your duties properly.
Listen, my duties, okay?
Your duties are to uphold the law of the land, and that's it. Nothing else. Nothing else.
When you make your chicken,
You're not obliged to tell them, but you don't have to tell them. And I'm telling him the law, innit, just in case he doesn't know. He doesn't have to tell you. I will not calm down. You don't have to tell them your name, Phil. If you want to, you can, but if you don't... Yeah? You never found nothing, you're not going to search me, that was your deal, innit?
yeah, that's my deal.
Cool. And now I need to ask you a question. Are you working in accordance to the oath that you took to become a police officer?
I need to answer that question.
Of course you do, you're a public service. You're a public servant, you have to answer all questions.
How do you feel about being searched for knocking on the door?
I feel like an animal. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm being thrown against the wall and told to empty my pockets.
Yeah?
This is like a legit gang.
How often do you get stopped and searched?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
If you were being stopped by the police under Section 163 of the Road Traffic Act, which allows the police to stop a person driving a mechanically propelled vehicle, you could argue that you are not a person and that you're not driving, you are just travelling, which would all be true but will probably get you nowhere. They will then most probably move on to Section 164, which grants them the power to ask for your driver's license, so they can confirm your details and that you're legally allowed to drive the car. Now, since this is an act we're talking about, there is no law saying that you must give your name, but by having a driver's license, registering your car and paying road tax, you sort of agree to it through conduct, to the rules of the Road Traffic Act, that is. The best advice here is to stay in your car and roll your window down, just enough so you can hear the officer and they can hear you. The police have no right to ask you to step out of your vehicle. Ask them why they have stopped you. If they reply Section 163, Section 164, or Section 165 of the Road Traffic Act, it is just to check documents, so give them your license or give them your details. If they require any further details, for example, your insurance documents, ask them for a producer. This is laid out in Section 165 and allows you 7 days to produce documents at a police station of your choice. This could also be the key to not having your car towed if the police cannot confirm you have insurance. It is clearly laid out in Section 165 that you have 7 days to produce your documents before it becomes an offence. The police have no right to grab your keys out of your vehicle if they're stopping you under Section 163, 164, or 165 of the Road Traffic Act. If you wish, respectively decline to answer any other questions. Officers have to be in uniform to enforce the Road Traffic Act, as it is a statute. Plainclothes officers cannot use Section 163, Section 164, or Section 165 of the Road Traffic Act, or enforce any statutes or acts that do not contain a criminal element. Through extensive research, the makers of this documentary now believe that the majority of pace, stop and searches and stops under the Road Traffic Act, Section 163, are for intelligence gathering purposes, and this is why they are on the increase, and officers are not trained or forced to remember the wording of individual acts, as it would contradict with what they are doing.
If you know the name or the warrant number of the person you wish to speak to, please press 1.
A new trend is occurring with police searches, and it has to do with the taking of mobile phones to check the IMEI numbers.
Right, Sarge? How you doing? You okay? I'm fine, thank you. You don't want to give the officers your details? Yeah. What, is there a reason for that? Because I haven't committed any crime and I don't think I'm obliged to. No, you don't have to. Yeah. What we will do is we do an IMEI check on your phone, mate. We have been told to do that. What's that? Check your phone to make sure it belongs to you. Okay? It belongs to me. It was given by my girlfriend. Yeah, we're entitled to do that, okay? Okay. So if you can hand your phone over to the officers and we'll do a check on that. Okay. You have to do that? Sorry? Am I obliged to give you my phone? Yes, you are. Alright. We're checking to make sure I've got that on record.
Now everyone has a mobile phone, and I would think it very difficult for them to say they had reasonable grounds to suspect that the phone was stolen, unless the officer's information was intelligence-based. After an extensive search online, nothing came up, so I called the police to ask them. Here is that conversation.
How can I help you?
Yeah, hi mate. I don't know if I've come through to the right number or not, but I just got a really quick question about police procedures.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago was stopped in the street. It wasn't in Hertfordshire, it was in London. But he was, when he was stopped, they took his mobile phone off him and said they were doing an IMEI check. What is the legality behind that? Because I couldn't see anything online on the website or on the police website or what act it is or what powers they're using to do that.
There's no particular powers required to do that. If they believe that it could be a stolen phone, or they're checking the legality of the phone to check that it isn't stolen, then we have a link with the monitoring company that provides the EMEI numbers.
Oh, okay. So there's nothing I could find online that actually says this is a part of a pace or part of an act or anything like that. It's just quite literally.
No. It's the old-fashioned sort. The old term used to be suss and deal. You know.
Yeah.
If they've got reasons to believe.
Yeah.
Then they're in their full rights to check the IMEI number. If there's no problems, return it. If it's stolen, then deal with it.
Okay. Can someone refuse, or is it mandatory?
Yeah, you can refuse. But if they've got reasonable cause to believe, then they can take the phone and the person to police station for further inquiries.
As you can hear from the conversation, the police need reasonable grounds for suspicion. That means they must suspect that your phone has been stolen before they can take it and perform an IMEI number check. This seems to be a new police tactic to try and gain your details through underhanded and mischievous means. A breach of the peace is an old common law concept which is used to prevent unlawful violence against people or property. A breach of the peace is not a criminal offence in itself. However, special powers exist for the purpose of stopping or preventing anyone from breaching or threatening a breach of the peace by committing unlawful violence. A breach of the peace are actions which harm another person or harm his property in his presence, are actions that are likely to provoke such harm. A breach of the peace may occur on public or private property. There is no criminal offence for breach of the peace for which someone can be prosecuted. The power exists to prevent a breach of the peace. An arrest can be made, but only to remove someone from the situation or if an imminent breach is reasonably anticipated. This means that if you are arrested for a breach of the peace, or to prevent a breach of the peace, you cannot be charged or prosecuted, as it is a preventional power. A breach of the peace is covered more extensively later in this documentary in the section regarding bailiffs. Section 5 is probably one of the most abused powers the police have in their arsenal, and a police officer can arrest without warrant if he believes you are in breach of this section. Since February 2014, the word insulting has been removed from the Act to move into line with Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. This means you can say whatever you wish as long as it's not aggressive in nature or provoking violence. The best advice is to stay calm and not swear or make threats, and as long as you have not broken the law, harm, injury or loss to a fellow human, you will be fine. Just remember this: most police officers respect being respected, and you will have a greater chance of moving on with your day if you do so. But always stand up for your rights. These are the most common types of police interactions, but there are many more acts they could use to try and stop you in your everyday life. Just remember that it is all online, and you have the right to check if you doubt what the police officer is telling you. What you are watching here are the police violently arresting protesters for small infractions such as not listening to a police command, not giving details, or Section 5 public disorder. They have committed no crime and are now essentially being tortured. The police seem to be able to get away with horrendous acts towards people and in some cases treat the general public worse than criminals. For example, imagine someone is arrested for assault, then taken back to a police station and refused to give his name. Would the police then throw him to the ground and assault him until he gives his name? The answer in most cases is a resounding no. That would be torture. Article 3 of the Human Rights Act, that was incorporated into English law in 1998, states, "No one shall be subject to torture or inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment." Another case similar to this would be smashing someone's window to enforce the Road Traffic Act, essentially breaking a law to enforce an act, a rule. The police need to go back to policing, preventing a breach of the peace and protecting people and property. Upholding rules should never be done by force. You are a sovereign entity, and no one has the right to tell you what you should or shouldn't do or how you conduct your life if you haven't broken any laws. If someone had that power over you, then you would be a slave. Think about it.